Now that we have parts of the recipe, let's talk about what are the least five out of the six parts that you need to know, and what is the sixth part, which is going to be optional. So the first part in the recipe is the yield. The yield tells you how much of a item you need or how many serving size. So please add that to your notes. A yield is the serving size, whether it's 12 servings, 6 servings. It tells you the amount of servings that recipe will make. So number one is going to be yield, also known as the serving size. And you'll see that in the next slide with the blueberry recipe example. Number two, the ingredients and their amounts. The ingredients and their amounts tells you basically how many cups, how many teaspoons or tablespoons you would need of an ingredient. So, for example, in the recipe, you'll see a cup of sugar or 2¼ cup of flour. So it tells you the ingredient and it'll tell you the amount. That's the second part of a recipe that you need to understand and make sure you know is the ingredients and their amounts. Usually it's by measuring cups and it tells you the ingredients. Also, please add to your notes, the ingredient also is in the order of how it should be used in the recipe. All good recipes will tell you the list of the ingredients and it's going to be used. And usually it's in the order of how it's used in the recipe. Step 3, container size and type. Container size and type is going to be your cooking equipment, your measuring equipment, whether it's dry or liquid. It's also going to be any mixing bowls you would need, spatula, spoon, or whisk as well. So mostly for most recipes out there, it gives you, for example, a saute pan. It will tell you a baking sheet, or it will tell you a 12-cup muffin pan, as you'll see in the next slide. So most of those recipes will tell you what you would need, what equipment you would need. So that's your container size and type. The next item that you have is temperature and time. Every good recipe gives you the temperature and time. So the temperature would be, for example, baking a muffins 375. If it does not give you the numerical number, it'll say saute, it'll say pan broil. It may also say boil. So those are your temperature information. Again, those are terms that we covered about a week ago. Next, it will tell you time. It'll give you prep time and it'll also give you cook time. So prep time could be 15 minutes. It tells you for washing your blueberries or cutting your fruit, measuring your flour, melting your butter, measuring your liquid. So that prep time is divided from the cook time. So every good recipe will tell you that. And sometimes some recipes will combine the cook time and prep time together to give you an overall picture of the time frame. And usually it will tell you bake for 10 minutes or saute for 10 minutes for that. The next thing you need to know, and step number 5, is going to be your nutritional analysis. And your nutritional analysis is going to be a clear and concise way of what carbohydrates are found in the recipe, what proteins are found in the recipe. Also gives you the vitamins and minerals and water by grams and by serving size and ounces. This is very important if you have a special diet or if you're monitoring your food intake. This is very important to know. A next tip that you need to know, all recipes should be clear and concise. So please write that down. All recipes should be clear and concise. That means that the recipe should be easy to follow. And if you don't know some of the terms, always look them up if you're not familiar with those. You can Google the term if you're not familiar with some type of thing. For example, someone may not understand what puree may mean. So you can put that in a search bar and it tells you puree means to break down into a liquid form, okay, like a fruit or a vegetable. Also, it's important to read through the recipe before you begin preparing it. All good recipe preparers and cookers always read the recipe. Reading the recipe all the way through from the beginning to the end, preparing it is very important. Never start a recipe without reading. I repeat, never begin a recipe without reading it. Reading it in its entirety is very important so you can understand what you need, the amount the serving size is expected, and the overall outcome. This enables one to ensure that the directions are understood, all ingredients and equipment are prepared for the recipe. If you go on to the next slide, please join me as looking at the blueberry muffin recipe as an example. On slide number 3, students, you will see blueberry muffins. This is a great example of parts of a recipe. Now, if you notice, there are 5 parts of a recipe with this particular one. So you have the yield, which will tell you how many muffins, 12, that is to make. You have the title of the recipe, blueberry muffins. You also have the list of ingredients and their amounts. You also have the prep time. You also have the total cook time. And as you can see, you have about 9 directions for this recipe that are listed. So you have the step-by-step directions. You also have some various cooking terms in this, and you also have the container size and shape. So what I want you to do is on your paper, after you finish completing the notes, write down those five out of 6 parts of the recipe for the blueberry muffins and put that down and complete that in your notes. Okay? All right. Thank you, students, for your time and your consideration on parts of the recipe. Look forward to speaking with you guys soon. Thank you.